Now, the issue is, and this is why I wanted to make it sort of a public thing, is there's all of us out there, we've been following the intel, the research, the information, deconstructing our reality, realizing that we've been fooled, realizing that a lot of the mainstream sort of stuff is not true. And when people, at first it's this incredible like awakening and discovery, and everybody's sort of learning all of these things. But what happens is, and particularly with men, I find, and and women, of course, is that they're busy focusing on the outside world, on research, on what's happening outside of them, and they bury themselves in the intel. And then when that is done or it comes apart, they have neglected what's going on really inside. And they fall apart, because if the intel and the external world falls apart, they fall apart inside. So, hi everyone. Everybody knows who my dearest friend is, Kelly Jones. How you going, Kelly?
Hi. Hello, everyone.
First time you've been on my channel by yourself, right? And how we've been friends for, gosh, I can't remember. When did we meet? Did we meet in 2021?
I think so, yeah. Feels like a couple of years now.
We did the Crystal City show when you and Campbell invited me on. I remember reading your email and it was like, oh my God, we love you so much, your tree videos. And then I was so swamped and I didn't have an admin at all. And I was like, but something like it jumped out at me and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give these guys a go, because I know quite a bit about Tartaria. And then because I wasn't doing shows with anyone, and then I thought, nah, gotta meet these guys. And then the rest is history. We became really close, and look at you. You're just so quiet.
You know what? I have, this is the very first time I've agreed to do any sort of interview or podcast that has anything to do with anything outside of the Tartarian topic and has any focus on me in any way. And it's it's the first time, JC. So we've been wanting to do this for ages, haven't we? We've been wanting to get on and have a chat, and
we've been saying we wanted to do like a podcast called Two Aussie Birds, and just like have a magpie and a cockatoo or something like that. Two Aussie birds, right? And just shooting the breeze, spinning in a yarn,
mate. And you know me, normally I'm standing up, I'm bouncing around, I've got this energy, but today I've decided to sit down and try a whole new, more focused in approach. So I'm sitting kind of strangely in a chair right now, which is also the first time.
Okay, so let me explain to all of you what we're doing, okay, and what our intention is and what my intention was, because it was me that I kind of invited Kelly on, and let me explain the whole thing. So, interestingly enough, what I believe from the very beginning of all of my channel is I've kind of had this brand or shtick that where I am completely raw and honest, and I usually have my phone and my face is right up there, and I'm bearing all, and I've cried ugly cries in front of everyone, and I've expose my real self, and everybody's watched this journey, and I've noticed that is the most healing thing, and it's very healing for the audience to witness that. And then yesterday, Kyle Cease, who is a friend of mine, and I interviewed him once on my channel, and I absolutely love him. He's an American comedian and inspirational speaker, a motivational speaker, and he calls it transformational work. So he put out a video where he ugly cried. Like he just bared it all. And it was really like really bared it all and showed everyone how these emotions came up and out of him so that he could heal. And I was saying to Kelly yesterday, because, you know, this weekend, come on, this energy of, I think around Friday, Saturday, Sunday, everyone I know was dealing with this stuff like coming up in relationships and friendships and work situations, and all this muck is coming up and the truth is being exposed, right?
Yep, totally.
And I had really emotional stuff happen to me on the weekend privately, and then I just said to Kelly, you know what? I just think it's something going on astrologically, the equinox, and it's time for us to purge this stuff. And then we talked about what you do and how everyone knows you, and you're like this bubbly, incredible, amazing force. And I've been, live with you on stage, and you just take the stage and you have this light coming out of you, and everybody sees you as this positive force. But do we get to see the real you? And
man, I'm fucked up at the moment. I'm fucked up, man. Like, self-confessed. I think that, I don't know if this is just a me thing or like there's literally millions of us in this space, but I feel like we've got to the end of the programming or something, like we've deprogrammed ourselves enough. And now it's just like, well, what the fuck now? Like, where does this, what is reality now? Like, how do I plug into it? What do I actually have faith in? What's my vision? Do I have any ambition? Like, I really have gone into a cynical state of mind where, and as I got even more cynical, and it wasn't towards all the amazing shit we do on these podcasts, but it was cynical towards reality itself and like our role here and the purpose of our being on this realm right now. Like, now we've sort of understood all the delusions and illusions and and yeah, it threw me into cynicism, which I've kind of expressed on the podcast, and then into this like awful place of like self-criticism and self-worth, and just went really down far into my own emotional gauge of myself. Like, yeah. So yeah, I've been fucked up, buddy.
So I don't think it's fucked up. I think it's a process. I think it's a process, and I think it's because so this is a process that I wanted everyone to sort of witness, and I'm going to sort of facilitate Kelly through this, because what we're going to so what's happening here is there's been like a deconstruction of reality. And what tends to happen with most folk, and the reason why I said to you, why don't we just record these conversations? Because you and I talk, we send voice messages to each other, like really long voice messages while we're doing other things, and we're just shooting the breeze, but really sharing. And it's so inspirational, like hearing you sort of, you'll be going for a long drive and just talking about what your real feelings are, and I do the same with you, sending these messages to each other, and through talking to each other and our friends, we start to heal ourselves. But then there's another dynamic when you do it in front of people. Now the issue is, and this is why I wanted to make it sort of a public thing, is there's all of us out there, we've been following the intel, the research, the information, deconstructing our reality, realizing that we've been fooled, realizing that a lot of the mainstream sort of stuff is not true. And when people, at first it's this incredible like awakening and discovery, and everybody's sort of learning all of these things. But what happens is, and particularly with men, I find, and and women, of course, is that they're busy focusing on the outside world, on research, on what's happening outside of them, and they bury themselves in the intel. And then when that is done or it comes apart, they have neglected what's going on really inside, and they fall apart, because if the intel and the external world falls apart, they fall apart inside. And what I think is, I said to you, it's all well and good that we can sit there and talk about Tartaria and fantasy and imagination, but let's get it out of the head and start feeling what's really going on. And I mean, you've got amazing fucking stories. So sorry for the swearing, everybody. I don't really like swearing anymore, but
Don't we swear? Oh, sorry. I didn't get that memo. Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. I definitely, coming into this year, it sort of felt like I'd hit a void with the online research. I feel like the AI is definitely caught up to it. The internet's not a place to go for information. That took me sort of wanting to find a different source of information, which then, of course, had to take me back to my own inner source, and then like utilizing my intention and consciousness onto the object or the question that I have, or the time in history, or whatever it is I want information on, using my own source. So using my consciousness, getting rid of that middle man, which has been the internet for so many of us. And yeah, but it threw me into a bit of a void. And so I got a bit cynical, and then from there I really started to question my role in it, and any sort of notion of a destiny, or any sort of notion of past lives even, or any notion of any contribution that can be made to this realm. Because, as I was driving home today, JC, I put on this Spotify list, and it was like the most motivational songs ever written, right? And the very first one was Heal the World by Michael Jackson. And I fucking love that song, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the whole entire human race. See, that's where I've spent my whole life. Like, the lyrics of that song is basically where I have coexisted with source and reality. And suddenly I get to this place where I'm like, is healing the world even something that needs doing? Like, what is the world? I don't even know what the world is. I don't know. I know what we need to heal from. Like, that's what we spent all this time understanding. But the contribution, that natural flow of wanting to make it better for the future generations, has got blocked in me, because I feel like, in this lifetime, we're not even going to die. And this lifetime, there's going to be a reset or whatever the fuck's going to happen, but something's going to happen. And is there any role in me? Yeah, and like, I work in regenerative agriculture,
yep,
like trying to transition farmers to fix their soils, to improve the food chain. Like, is there any point in that? Is there purpose in any of that? And so that's where I got. And then we're all messed up.
You're having a massive existential crisis. That's what's happening with you.
Yeah, man, I totally am. And the reason I said, yeah, let's do this, is because maybe many others are, and maybe it's a natural progression out of the unschooling or out of the unprogramming model. So this may be the next level of conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah, the deprogramming, the deprogramming and the deconstruction of everything. So for me, I have a real good handle on all of this, and I think what keeps me grounded and have a good handle on things is I have a very strong faith, right? And I have a strong belief in a source and a bigger picture. And so can you tell everyone a bit about your background, Kelly? If you guys don't already know, Kelly and I and Campbell from Autodidactic. So Kelly's from Tartaria, Australia. I'm from Quantum Truths, JCK. I forgot to introduce myself, but I'm sure you all know who I am. And we sort of collaborated as Aussies, and then we started doing some shows together. But you and Campbell tend to do shows together and sort of talk about this expansive sort of consciousness, and I love talking about that stuff too. But there is at the core of it, I mean, you and I are very similar. You're an artist. I'm an artist. We have very similar sorts of, I mean, when we talk about things, we talk in the same way. We have this very lateral thinking. Both homeschooling kids at the moment. But can you sort of explain your background? Because you've lived a very interesting life.
I've lived a very interesting.
So I mean, you're not just like this run-of-the-mill chick who, went to church and did, you went and did, like, you lived in a monastery, right?
Yeah. All right. I haven't okay. So let me preference this conversation by saying this is the first time I've ever spoken about myself on publicly. Like, I've kept this very far away from the public arena because, like, I went through trauma the last couple of years and I got pretty burnt by by public sort of persecution. So it took me a lot to raise my head again publicly with Tartaria Australia. And that's the second time I've had a YouTube channel. The first time I had one was back when YouTube had just started. And I was like one of the only female whatever talking about all this whatever, you know, and it really did explode. And I took it down like 4 years into it, a few hundred videos. But yeah, my background, I just was born a hotel child. Like my parents had hotels and I was born on top of, my phone. I was born on top of hotels.
Yeah.
Which was the coolest thing. So this is the coolest first story I'll tell you. My parents did package holidays for elderly people, right? For retirees. So every Friday night, a bus would turn up with like 50 to 60 elderly people. Then they'd stay in the hotels. My parents would, take them on tours around the Gold Coast for a week and feed them at the hotel. And then they'd leave and a new group came. So I used to basically over the course of a year and my whole childhood till I was about 14, these same groups would come back every year. And so I was basically left with these grandparents. And essentially I could say that apart from my parents, I was raised by about 4,000 grandparents, you know, which is pretty fucking amazing because they're safe. You trust, parents trusted me being in their company. And I'd go on the bus tours. My sister and I'd go on all the bus tours. And there were places like Dreamworld and SeaWorld and, all that stuff. And so that was cool for my development because it was, how safe is that? 4,000 grandparents. And then every Friday night, this also probably summarizes a lot of my positivity. Every Friday night, there was a concert to welcome in the new group and say goodbye to the old group. And for 14 years, every Friday night, JC, I had to do the hokey pokey and the chicken dance.
No.
That's what I'm just saying. I fucking did, man.
That sounds like a cult.
Mate, I am a direct descendant of programming from the hokey pokey and the chicken dance. I think that probably says a lot about my psychology. And also I was
oh, you froze. Damn it, girl. You froze. Your internet is frozen. Stella! Come back, Kelly. Kelly.
Oh, hello.
You froze.
I'm sorry.
After I said it was a cult.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Well, dun, dun,
I was going, Stella.
Well, yeah, I mean, I am the direct descendant of being programmed by the hokey pokey and the chicken dance is all I'm saying here. That I am that. So every sort of afternoon at 3:00 on that little tiny TV that used to sit up in the shared lounge room, on would come The Flying Nun. Remember that show? The Flying Nun with Sally Fields. Yeah. Sally Fields, I was fucking obsessed with this show, right? I don't know why. I was 2 or 3, 4, 5, but I was into it and I really connected God with the ability to fly. And so as a young being, I wanted to fly. So I saw that in the realm of the spiritual. That's what I was gifted. So, and then we traveled a lot overseas. My parents were English. And on my first trip through Singapore airport, which is how I would get to England, I bought my first Buddhist book at the age of 7 or something. And I couldn't read it. I couldn't read it. It was about metta. It was about love and kindness. But I wanted this book.
There's a Buddha on your shoulder right now. It's on your shoulder.
Check this out. This is
I love
this is the very first community bar I built on my property, my old farm. This is the Buddha bar. So I used to have public events. That was built for $20 or something from the rubbish tip.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. So I ended up buying this book. I was drawn to that. I had no concept of what it was. I was naturally, instinctively, was very proud of this book. I carried it around in my little red school bag for a long time. And eventually found myself going into a Buddhist monastery. I moved to Japan for a couple of years, had a blast, fucking crazy place over there, and ended up in a Buddhist monastery and was training to be an ordained nun for, I don't know, 4 years. And I eventually ended up in a monastery in Brighton in the UK.
Yeah.
So that was like my early 20s. I don't know, I went in when I was 21, something.
Wow. And what was that like? Because, you'd think that someone who had, full immersion in Buddhism and about creator or source and the whole idea of what our big picture is here, one would assume that that kind of major foundation early on would have stuck with you and made you feel this sense of oneness and not have these existential crises. So being in a Buddhist monastery and really diving, because you did the hard yards with all of that.
I fucking loved it.
Did you shave your head? Did you do? Yeah.
I loved being at the monastery. Like when I was in Japan and I decided I wanted to move to the monastery, I literally had no money. What I did was pull everything I had. I bought the ticket to the UK. I got a loaf of bread and I peanut buttered every single side of that bread. And that was my food for like days. Like I had no idea what I was going to do once I arrived. I just arrived in Brighton, turned up, knocked on the door.
Oh no, you're getting cut out again. I think this storm is coming and I'm going to have to keep talking until Kelly comes back. Kelly, come back. I love you. I'm going to write a song about Kelly coming back. So you knocked on the door at the monastery.
Yep. And then I said, teach me everything you know. I want to know everything you know. And burst into tears because I was so exhausted and excited to be there. And then she was like, what the fuck is this crazy coming in? And like, so anyway, they said, you can't just move in. You need to get to know the community for 3 weeks. We don't even know who you are. Like, but anyway, I did eventually move in and yeah, and I loved it so much.
So where were you before the monastery? I mean, you landed
Japan.
Yes, but where were you when you landed on the steps? Where did you stay if you couldn't stay in there?
Yeah, well, I had to tread water for a bit. Like I had to be a street rat for a bit. Like I just yeah, I mean I was just on the streets basically, and eventually
right.
I met a student woman and she had a room in her house and she was willing to like let me stay there. And eventually I just had to like find some cash and started paying rent, but it was only for 3 weeks. So I was just really lucky that it managed to, I mean, you know, I was full of faith, baby. Like I traveled the world in total trust. I moved to Japan with $20 in my pocket and a koala bear suit for busking and 20 packets of spaghetti for food, and like literally like took all the salt and peppers and sugar from Starbucks. That's how I lived. I wasn't in any fear of, I just knew I would protect.
Yeah, you were in the flow. And so you were,
I would never fucking do that now.
So when someone's in the flow, there is a big, strong connection to creation and to their higher self. And so you're in the monastery, okay, and you're having all of these incredible lessons about life, etc. I remember you telling us the story about how is this Zen Buddhism? What is the type of the sort of?
It was Mahayana. The tradition was Mahayana. It was Nukadampa tradition. And yeah, I mean, like it was interesting, the tradition that I gravitated towards, because it was the one tradition that the Dalai Lama had rejected from Buddhism. Like our teacher had actually left Tibet because he had had a riff with the Dalai Lama and was wanting to keep the traditional practice alive that he had been taught and generationally, as the story goes. I mean, we know a lot more now, but yeah, I mean, so basically I was in the monastery that the Dalai Lama practitioners would protest against.
Wow.
Like I actually saw, like you see this Dalai Lama as this peace, love giving and the kind of the lovely, harmonious king of Buddhism who keeps all the traditions alive. But no. Tibet has the biggest warring fucking history ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Like it is warring.
Yes.
And brutal. And I'm pretty convinced they also manage the gateways down into the down underground.
Yeah. I had that feeling too, that there was a major part of that's what the whole cover was for that.
Yeah.
But let's instead of talking about the external stuff, let's talk about you. Back to you. Okay. Because when I talk to you, I'm just gonna I find you like you're so deep and you bare your soul to me, and then there is this incredible, vivacious, dynamic persona who comes out, and that's you as well, right? And you come out and you're ready to go, and you no matter how horrible the crisis is, you just step up and you turn it around and you make it positive, and you do all of these things, but in public and with your friends. And so what I want to say to you is that because for me, I'm just me. I'm just me, right? It's like I don't have to put on a persona. I'm just sort of like me, and I don't care if I say something that's not going to make people feel comfortable. So what I want to say is, what is it that is it tiring to have to put up this or second guess yourself in front of people? Do you feel like that? I mean, I've jumped from the Buddhist monastery to that, but I felt like I needed to ask that.
Look, I mean, I have the last 10 years for me, there's been some major crazy stories. And I shut myself down after that process. So I've always been a speaker. I've always been in the realm of talking, and obviously I was a teacher for the monastery for many years. And is it a persona that like I hide my actual emotions around? Potentially, I would say I don't. I have maybe an aversion to wanting to. Yeah, I mean, I guess I struggle with wanting to like put out any of my like negative attitudes, unless I'm being funny about it and just like lighthearted about it. Just because I feel like there's some like responsibility with like not wanting to bring my shit onto other people and bring them down. So I guess I hold it back there.
It's very noble.
But
yeah, it's very noble. See, I don't consider you to be a pessimist. I don't consider you to be a person who's inclined to any of that, right? But yes, but well, the reason why
I hide.
Yeah,
I mean, I will confess that. Yeah.
This is
so I have definitely gone through a process of shutting myself down and hiding, and not exposing, some of the, like, it's not that I hide my emotions back, but I do not tell the stories of my life that like are confronting and conflicting and traumatizing to me. So I don't share those stories. And I have.
So let's make a difference. Do you not share those stories with friends or not share those stories with the public? Because that's okay that you don't share them with the public, but do you not share them with friends and things? You're not?
It depends. It totally depends on the consciousness of that entity.
Right.
Like with you, I wouldn't hold anything back.
Yeah.
Because the consciousness I would feel would, I feel like we'd get something out of it. I feel like there'd be some healing. I'd feel like there'd be some relief or some epiphany or something out of it. Not just entertainment, not just us enjoying each other's stories. Yep.
So let me
now.
Explain. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the idea of telling some of those stories makes me feel anxious and vulnerable and nervous and
we're
raw.
We're going to get to them. Because the reason why, so there's a process in what I'm saying and for sort of facilitating here. This is not just an interview. This is two of us talking, but I'm actually holding space for you, even though I'm talking a lot. I want to I'm aware that there might be an audience watching this, and I just wanted to sort of say that all of this is really important to sort of share with others, because most people, one of the biggest fears in all humanity is not death. It's actually public speaking. Okay. Now you don't have an issue with public speaking, but, and stepping out, most people will say to me all the time, it's like, I don't know how you do what you do. I would not want to be up there. I would not be ready for criticism, but you strike me as someone who just dives in, like how you went to the monastery. You just dive in and you throw yourself out there. And that's me, right? So like when it comes to the stage, when it comes to being in front of a crowd, being at a party, I will jump in and I'll just openly speak. And it may be because You and I are both very articulate. We're very intelligent people. We are really clever. I mean, you studied writing, I believe, and like you were doing the creative writing and all of these sorts of things. And I studied English and drama and theatre and all of that. I've got all these degrees and things like that. So, so that confidence in articulating ourselves is we've got it, right? We're not afraid to articulate what we're thinking. But there's a difference between being absolutely brutally honest with ourselves and opening up to our emotions and sharing ourselves in the public. Okay. So in terms of risk taking, probably the only risk I would take is getting up on stage and just going for it. As far as other things go in my life, I'm kind of not a risk taker. But you and I both work very intuitively. That's what I've noticed about you, is that you are the type of person, you don't like schedules, you like to flow, you like to think and kind of just see where everything goes with that. And I wanted to sort of share this with the audience, this process, because what's happening, and I would like to sort of get into it, is I said to Kelly, you know what? Everybody needs to see the real you. You are very affable. You're very lovable. You're incredibly dynamic. You're like meeting you in real life. You've got this light coming out of you that is so profound. And on stage, you just take charge and you're out there and you're being yourself, right? And you're sharing your thoughts, but it's all up here, right? And even though what you speak of comes from your passion, the real stuff has been blocked somehow. Okay. And so we're going to sort of introduce this to everybody, because this process is part of healing. And we could talk about your background and the incredible stories. But the reason why I brought up the Buddhist monastery is because we assume that people who've been with movements or in like a monastery, that you're very you're trying to find yourself, right? You're trying to find yourself and you're seeking that. So let's jump to what happened after the Buddhist monastery, because did you lose your faith then, or did you just feel you outgrew it?
No, what actually happened to me is I was totally in love with being at the monastery. I was starting to see some indiscretions. I was starting to see some indiscretions with gender, like as in women weren't getting the same teachings. I was starting to see some of that. But actually what really happened to me was I was driving to class one day. I was teaching a class and this voice appeared in my head that I had never heard before. It wasn't my voice, and it said, it just out of nowhere, Kelly, you can't be a Buddhist because you're not Buddha. And then it said, you have to be a Kellyist because you're Kelly. That's what it said. And as soon as I heard that, I just went, holy fucking shit. Like I looked around at everyone I'd ever met through the monasteries and every other religion that I'd looked at. I'd never seen an enlightened being. And I was like, oh my God, why am I doing pujas in Tibetan? That is what Buddha did to awaken himself. I'm actually adding layers of persona to me, not stripping them back. I'm counterproductive on my pursuit of knowing myself. And I also saw how people responded to me and others when we had robes on. Like it's ridiculous. Like you'd go to walk for a street and everyone it's like the sea would part. The reverence is so dumb. And I mean, it's very hard to not plug into your egoic nature there. It's like, it's very hard to be revered in this way. When I do my talks, they'd put you on a podium. So you'd be up in a room waiting. There's every 300 people would arrive. You'd go up, you'd walk down, go up on a podium and sit and speak for 3 hours. And then everyone's like, oh my God.
They're trying to teach oneness in a realm that has duality, where everybody, no matter what you do, humans are going to judge the other. This is the case of the other, right? And that's where the quandary comes. And I don't know if they call that a koan or something like that in Buddhism, but that's a real, it's a thing that can't be solved, because we're in a space of duality and you can't not be the other. You can't not compare
No.
the other in this realm, right? And so when you think back to that moment where you heard this voice, who do you think the voice was? Was it you? Is it your higher self? Or?
It was a male voice. It was a male voice. I could hear a distinctive male voice. It was so integrated into my being that I didn't question it for one. It just felt completely trustworthy. It just felt like if I was to liken being spoken to by my higher self or like a very trusted long-term companion or guide, that's what it was like. There was no questioning of it, nothing but like
it wasn't nefarious.
Total surrender. Nothing. It was just I completely integrated and surrendered into it straight away. It's like my mother whispering it in my ear. Honestly, it was so familiar, but I'd never heard it before.
So what do you think, looking back now, because that was like about 20 years ago, what do you think that means now, being a Kellyist? Are you being a Kellyist right now?
Well, I guess I am. Have I got to the heart of the Kellyness that no, because I know that like I have blocked a relation, like there's a block. I know there is. I know that there's a block. And we've spoke yesterday that I have grief on my chest. I know that there is a shitload of grief on my chest, and yes, I can pinpoint times in this lifetime, but it feels fucking old. Like it's been there a long time. So I
want to tell everybody why the grief. Like has been recent grief. You've lost a dear loved one recently, and you just kept powering through that, which is what most people do. Is they go through trauma and they just keep powering through, and they don't deal with it, and it gets stored in the body. And this is what Kyle Cease was talking about. All his trauma sort of being stored in the body, and as he cries it out, it falls away, right?
Yeah.
And you've been sick as well, and you've been, so there's been,
Well, I was going to say, actually, because, the last couple of weeks, my question has just been like, when you get to the end of all this programming, what next? What's there? What's the beyond? What's the plug-in? What is there to have faith in? What am I connecting my faith to? And I mean, like, I've lost faith in Source God like twice this lifetime, and this is the second time, right? And it's a big thing for me. And the first time is when I question the shape of the earth. I was like, just fuck you, man.
So do you think have you talked yourself out of this reality? Is that what it is? Like you've thought yourself out of this reality? Because I think we've talked about this before, like that.
I'm totally capable of doing that. Yep.
This is probably why I keep saying to people, because there are a lot. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of people who have come across my videos where I don't know how many millions of views I've had, but I have had millions. And so we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of people being influenced by, what we're saying here. And I sort of want to say there are a lot of vulnerable people out there who, building up hope or learning something massively new that's outside of this reality and then dropping them from a big height is like, it's massive. It's massively, it can be kind of corrosive rather than exciting and exhilarating in learning this new stuff. That if you don't have your feet planted on the ground and a real strong sense of self and sense of faith and a sense of a bigger picture, it can be very destructive. And so what I want to say to you is that when, as an outsider who's never studied Buddhism, one of the things I think of when I think of Buddhism is this idea of oneness and the now and exploring the now. So what's changed since you having that foundation of learning about meditation, oneness, the now, being austere, not being tempted by the external world? What's shifted for you away from the focus of the now? Because it sounds to me as you're talking as though your mind is kind of like, I in this world it doesn't make sense and I don't know what my purpose
existential
is. That's
existential.
And that's got nothing. That if it was energy, it'd be like it's all over here, right? It's not in this 0 point. It's not in this
Mhm.
now moment. And the now moment is the only moment you have. So what made you lose that? Why are you not feeling it?
Well, I think like at the time when I left the monastery, and just because I left a week after I heard that voice and just gave up that whole thing, I actually also simultaneously, very quickly, understood that the nature of Buddhism is to put us in a state of non-creation. So I went down this
Wow.
process of understanding that we are, our mandate as human beings, to the far as that I've understood, is that we are to make known the unknown and to create reality. That's what we do. We can't help doing that. So it's part of it's what we do. And suddenly I was looking at meditation and the Buddhist religion, and I actually saw it as, I mean, I'm not going to say the word psyop because I didn't know that word back then, but I saw it as a way of basically pacifying millions of human beings into a state of non-creation, because you basically get taught to give up attachments to everything, give up attachments to family, to relation, to sex. And I don't think you can just do that. I don't think you can just decide to give up connection and become celibate, which is one of the things you have to do to initiate yourself up to an ordained being. And I used to watch it. I used to watch the monks get special teachings, and yet they'd still have these sexual dreams, and, they'd be all complicated and confused. The only way you can become naturally celibate, I believe, is that you actually have to have expressed and experienced that pathway so much that you are essentially bored of it and wish to make known another unknown.
Yes.
That's how you become celibate. Like, you can't just become celibate. So I started to question then, what are we attempting to achieve here? But the thing that really gave me evidence on this is Tibet, the fall of Tibet. Millions and trillions of the most masterful meditators, all concentrated in this lineages, in this place on this realm. And yet it fell in an instant as it got taken over by China, violently, full of torture. And not once did they apply their collective consciousness to changing that timeline or pathway. And I was like, well, you're forcing us to a state of non-creation. So that was where I started to get more existential.
I mean,
that's the beginning.
That's pretty profound, because when I think of you, I think of a very creative being. And I mean, my understanding of why our purpose is to be creator beings. We are creator beings, that we are part of source. Now, do you believe in a source? Do you believe in a source God? Do you believe in God?
Oh, mate, like, fuck yes, of course. Like,
okay. That's good. That's a good thing. We've got some hope for you. We've got some hope for you. No, because this nihilism, like if you don't believe in anything, then when we're fucked. So, so if you believe in that, so that for me, what I'm saying is that I handle a lot of this really cerebral stuff and this kind of deconstruction of everything because of that belief. I never stopped believing in that. I never stopped believing in God, our creator. And I was brought up a Christian, and so I never, ever, ever stopped believing in that, despite not believing in religion, because it's part of this, we're beyond, the religion is for this construct. It's not, it doesn't express the beyond part of us, right? And you believe that we're
which is complicated.
You believe we're multidimensional.
That's complicated,
beings?
man.
Yeah.
Because as I've talked to you before, like my very dear oldest friend now has, she's found Jesus Christ, she's found Christianity, and she has so much faith in this pathway and so much joy that I've never seen her so happy. Like, seriously, she is so happy. Her life is so supported. Everything has clicked in because she's found this faith in this pathway. And so everything has unclicked around me because I essentially have questioned my faith in what it is, what we are, what this container is that we exist in. Like, is it an AI simulation? And then what is it you're plugging your faith into? Like, what's past that? Is there, so I've really looked, so I can't find faith in a religion, so after the monastery, I went straight, guess where I went after the monastery? I went to fucking Osho. Yeah, man.
Osho,
I love cults. Osho.
Holy.
Yeah.
So Osho is like, that's the orange people, right?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yep.
Is that like
in
what's
Pune in India?
What's her name, Sheila?
Oh, yes, that's right. The secretary that brought the whole thing down. Yeah. But you know what Osho did for me, man? Because those books, you know what it did? It basically took me from renunciation, which is the Buddhist pathway, to fucking celebration, which is the Osho's pathway. So Osho was a guru from India, and he's fucking intelligent and super wise, and you would really enjoy his stuff.
Yeah, and there is I love his fuck thing, the one that he did.
Yeah, he did the whole sex book. That's right. And he's all like, again, that's exactly him. He's like, you know, fuck your way to celibacy. You can't do it any other way.
So already I can see sort of a pattern here when we talk about these idealisms or these notions of, you know, this group think where we either group together in communities, in you know, communes, in cults, in religions, in all of this, and we try to make every individual fit into one mindset, and then the actual mindset itself may start with something pure, and then it gets corrupted and broken apart, right? And then in the individual there starts to become this crisis of faith, and it doesn't work. So then you go to Osho, and then how long were you there for?
Well, I mean, I loved Osho. I still love Osho, actually. About 3 or 4 years. And then, so basically went from doing pujas in Tibet, like meditations in Tibet, to like dancing to techno music and screaming my lungs out, because he's all about release, release, release. Do it as much as you can, dance, celebrate, sex, like go for it, you know. And then you'll find this pathway where you're like, you found peace. Like you're not, he's about the opposite to repression. Whereas the Buddhist monastery was all about repression. So it was good. It was like a flip side of the same coin. I went from, you know, flip side of the same coin, same thing, different.
If they've got release, are they still got control in some way in that group?
Well, like it's a lot of cathartic, like, you know, you scream your head off and then you fall into meditation, or you dance your head off, or you dance for like an hour and then you've released all your crazy monkey mind energy, and then you can sit into deep meditation.
And there's been other sort of, I mean, I have never studied theology, but I do know that there's been other groups that do that sort of thing. I think Rasputin belonged to a group, this weird brotherhood monastery thing, and then they would like release through sex and like really depraved sort of stuff, and then you know, and even Aleister Crowley did that sort of stuff, you know. It's like to the
I was about to say that. I think the Satan religion, it does that to the extreme.
Yeah. There's extreme stuff. The whirling dervishes as well. It's like this trying to, you know, to reach this level of exaltation or something or release. You know, Okay, and so then you go through. So there's a lot of these isms. You're belonging to a lot of these isms, right?
Yeah, and I'm still really young at this point. Like I'm in my early 20s. And so then I end up.
Where do you go?
Where did I go after that? So then after Osho, I returned to England because my grandmother was dying. I looked after her, and then I started working for The Big Issue, you know, that the homeless magazine. Loved it, did that, and then returned to Australia and did a course called The Magician's Way, which was all about alchemy. And it was it turned on my psychic abilities. I started working as a psychic. You didn't know that one.
You and me are both psychics, so that's crazy. Wow. That's incredible.
And I love that. And so I just stood at a closed door. Yeah.
I mean, what's striking me is at these points when you're in these, you're belonging to these things, these names and these groups and these sort of ways of thinking and these how do I put it? It's kind of an idealism. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't have quite a few nines in your birthday, actually, because numerologically that is 9.
That's fun. Do you know when my birthday is?
No, I can't remember.
You ready?
What is it?
It's the 9th. It's the 9th of the 9th, 1977.
Yep. Okay. So because when I do my numerology, I know when someone's got about 3 9s or more, then we've got this idealism. There's a lot of humanitarian qualities and this desire to be a humanitarian, but there's also a risk of being an idealist, and also a risk of sort of belonging to fundamentalist sort of ideas and cult sort of behaviors. So there is this desire to find out more. How do I know who I am? And you're searching, constantly searching. So then you go from
definitely.
there. When does JZ Knight appear?
Then, so when I started doing the alchemy course, I watched What the Bleep Do We Know for the first time, and I fucking remember that documentary. I was watching it, I was loving it, but then this woman comes on.
Yeah.
Yep. And I remember Ramtha turns and he points to the camera and he says, "I don't think you're good. I don't think you're bad. I think you're God." And I was like, wow, like Hierophant. I could see this wasn't a human being. Well, this wasn't Jace, a woman speaking. Something else was going on. I wanted to know everything. And yep, so that started my love affair with Ramtha.
Let me show everyone who Ramtha is, who very intriguingly kind of has when you met me, did you kind of go, that's kind of creepy? Because
no, I didn't think it was creepy.
JZ Knight, right? So JZ Knight, JZK, and I'm JCK. So there's I know, that's crazy. So she's this gorgeous blonde woman who basically had this incredible awakening when this being started to speak through her. And she channeled this being who was from another dimension. I can't remember. There she is from What the Bleep. She'd put on weight by then, right? And she'd packed it on.
Yep.
And that was because of absorbing everyone's sort of energy as she was doing all of this. It's just too much for one little person to take on. But there she is. So so Jay-Z, just talk about, I mean, did it feel like a cult when you belonged to Ramtha's teachings or anything? Because you learned a lot there.
Oh, a cult. Well, I mean, I fucking love Ramtha. I will always love Ramtha. Ramtha introduced me to the quantum realm, to the mind, to the brain, to the internal world. He took it out of the realm of duality and, good and bad and right and wrong. And like I had profound experiences with Ramtha's work, and to this day he's one of my beloved. I would consider him one of my most beloved teachers. I haven't had any expression with Ramtha's school for a long time.
Did you ever meet them one-on-one? Like, did you ever meet Ramtha?
Yes. And our preference is the quick story, just so it makes sense when I tell you in 20 years' time. Like Ramtha used to go to Bathurst. That was their chosen location in Australia. So the Ramtha school would go to Bathurst, and I was fortunate enough to go. And Ramtha was teaching in person, which was and it was amazing, man. Like he just did it was an amazing 12-hour teaching all about romance.
Wow. Okay, that's kind of intriguing with Bathurst, because there's a bit of a nefarious thing there, if you know anything about what
there is. Yeah.
Right.
Totally. I've lost my screen.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I just want to know. So when you said Bathurst, I kind of went, okay, because in Australia, in Bathurst, we did have a whistleblower come out and talk about.
Yep, it's fucking dark.
Fiona Barnett talking about there was some rituals that there would be, like during the Grand Prix in Bathurst.
Yep.
There would be some of these elite satanic people going and meeting there, and under the guise of all these tourists sort of coming together in Bathurst, they would be having their weird, horrible rituals with children, etc. And their sort of black mass type stuff. So when thinking back now, knowing that Ramtha goes to Bathurst a lot, do you think that's just location, or do you think something else is going on there? Did you ever see anything nefarious or feel anything nefarious in that movement?
No, I did not.
Okay, so it might just be an innocent thing.
I mean, look, I know the stories of Bathurst with Fiona Barnett, and like basically everywhere I've gone around Australia in the realm has some fucking horrible story attached to it. No, I wouldn't connect that to the Ramtha school. I never saw anything like that going on. That's all I could say. All I saw was really good people. And like, because Ramtha's techniques they're very discipline orientated. It's like the first technique is reading the cards, as in you get 52 cards and you've got to like see the suit and the number while the card's down and write it down. You do the whole pack. And then we trained in remote viewing, and we trained in like objects in boxes and being at, like, it's a really fantastic. There's this one where you have to write your desire or draw your desire on a card. It gets put on around an oval, on the outskirts of an oval, and then you're blindfolded.
Yeah.
And then you walk with that focus in your mind to your card blindfolded while there's 500 other people doing the same thing.
That's pretty intense. But like, okay,
yeah.
So I'm going to jump and just sort of say something that because I come from a kind of a different perspective, is I'm really anti all of that, because to me, that kind of idea of belonging to a group of people that all want to believe and in one thing, and I cringe. Like any kind of clique, any kind of group, any kind of cult, I'm out the door, right? Any kind of organization, I am out the door. And that comes from trauma from being forced to study the Bible as a kid, with Jehovah's Witnesses. So not that, I mean, it was only a few years when I was a kid. It's not my fault. My mother was studying with them, and that traumatized me enough to not ever want to belong to anything, to the point where I love being on my own and belonging to nothing, and to step back from that. So do you, having experienced all of that, why do you think, at what point do you know who you are as an individual? Because to me, what it sounds like is that there's all this exciting stuff going on around you, and you're trying to find the self. And then it's like, at what point are you left alone with your thoughts as the individual without the construct? And is that what's going on right now? Are you like, you don't have this thing kind of cradling you?
I mean, that's a fair question. Yeah. Like, so I think what happened in my pathway was, it was the Ramtha school, or the Ramtha teachings, that basically brought in the idea of sovereignty, this word I'd never heard before, this idea of sovereignty, with the premise that you can never truly get a light heart, which is required for you to like move to a more expansive understanding of yourself, without like being sovereign in, basically your reality. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm
sorry. I just, so you know, I have lost my whole Zoom screen. So I'm just staring at, I don't even know where it is. I don't even know where to find it. So I can't see you.
This is a chick who's a graphic designer who should know computers very well. So like, what's going
on? Maybe I'm not meant to see myself or you.
Okay. So pretend you're driving down a crunchy road, and you're just talking, and you're just shooting the breeze. And let's put the history of Kelly Jones behind for now. And I want to talk about.
I returned to nature.
So you returned.
That was the answer to your question.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is what I wanted to say, is because as I'm talking to you, and so I'm mindful of the fact that I'm kind of doing an interview, I'm kind of having a conversation with you, and I'm kind of
weird, isn't it?
I'm kind of feeling you as an intuitive, so it's like I'm having a private conversation with you, but I am also aware of the fact that this is a recording, and we possibly might put it out if you approve it. And then I've got this other sort of aspect, trying to teach the audience, trying to talk to you and hold space for you, but also describe to the audience. So because I'm eventually going to go back to doing these one-on-one readings with people, and until I announce it, stop emailing me and asking me for readings. But like, I'm holding space for you because but I'm seeing patterns. So I'm standing outside listening to you, and I'm seeing patterns. And what the pattern is that you always were held by something, right? A group of something. And you were held with a group with grandparents, and then you're held with a group and a community of people with the Buddhist monastery, and then you're held in this group with Osho and their group there, and then you're held in this group, and you belong, and you you feel, and that this is very typical of someone with a 999, or this sort of vibe of trying to discover this self, but through the other and through the group mindset. But there comes a point where it's like, because you're independent from a young age, but at the same time it's like, who am I without the group, without the collective? And it feels like you feel safe in the collective, right? You feel safe in the collective. So now what is it what broke Kelly?
Well, yeah. I mean, like deciding to buy a farm and move out to the bush basically really severed my connection to being in any sort of container. And I was definitely, and then my relationship broke up, the partnership that I went to the farm with. So I basically returned to that farm by myself. I didn't even have a license back then. And I knew nothing. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know how to do anything. And yeah, I mean, that was I would say for me, that was one of the bravest things in my lifetime that I've done.
So you studied,
actually,
I just wanted to tell everybody that the reason why you do this, like you end up studying through Ramtha, you learn about living off the land, and kind of like, this is back in the 90s. They were, Ramtha was teaching sovereignty,
earth changes.
Teaching how to live on this new earth, a lot like the Anastasia books or the Ringing Cedar books. And Ramtha's teaching.
Well, his whole drive was
right?
The earth changes. He was like the earth changes are coming. Like his whole push was like, there's going to be a big catalytic reset, basically. Like, and go and buy land and build yourself an underground. You're going to need it. Put up all the food, all the stuff we're living through today, and are being advised to do today if you listen to the external world, like food scarcity, all that stuff. But that was one side of the message. The deeper message to me was, you can speak about all these things. It's theoretically as if they're like great ideas and yes, everyone should go and do this and blah, blah, blah. But like, what the fuck have you actually done about that? Like, do you know how to grow vegetables? Do you know how to take care of your shelter and sewage and yeah, I mean, like, and I basically got taken up on stage, and one of the teachers had gone through 400 of my YouTube clips and basically tore them apart. And it was very humbling and humiliating experience, but I didn't argue for my limitations. I just surrendered, and it was very humiliating.
Right. So you've been
at that
down,
point,
and then you have your farm. So sorry, go on with your
thought. Yes. Yeah. So then I did do it. I had a partner at the time and another friend who joined in. We went and got this little piece of land, but the partnership broke down with both of those people, and I ended up making the decision to return to that farm by myself in the middle of nowhere, knowing nothing and having no skills to back me up whatsoever, and no resources. So it was kind of like back to those early days where I just like would move to Japan with $20 and 20 packets of spaghetti. Like there's that raw trust. I do know about myself that I actually thrive on chaos. I like chaos. I like the wild storms coming in. I mean,
because you're very adaptive. Yes, you're very adaptive, right? So you are, even though you're a Virgo. I mean, actually, no, Virgo's a mutable sign. So in the zodiac, Virgo, Gemini, Pisces, Sagittarius, we're mutable, which means we sort of can adapt. And I forgot what I was going to say.
So I was by myself.
So I was by myself. So here we go.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Can you see this? Can you see this theme? You're constantly being held, and then the big tower moment happens. You lose everything, and you're there at the farm alone. Yeah. And do you think this is where you're accumulating grief? Are you kind of accumulating grief at this point?
No, I mean, the relationship was shit to break up. They always are, of course. But no, the scary thing was making the decision to go back. The next couple of days, all right, putting the farm back together. But like after that, I was like, like blank canvas. Like I was excited. I wanted to create, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. So that obviously turned me on as well. So I was not in grief at this point. No, even though I had like constantly stepped down from these containers that I was so enamored with at the time. A lot of letting go through all these, like, phases. But this time I actually, I still didn't stop seeking, wisdom and teachers, mate. Like I was exhausted by the end of the day from learning how to fucking dig or something, but and also very humbling, like you literally know nothing and you basically just constantly fucking making every mistake, hurting yourself, don't know what to do about it, consistently like that. So you are humbled by the land.
This is pretty crazy. So like you're learning, you're just learning on the spot. And I know that you developed some pretty incredible coping mechanisms during this time. And one of them was called Rampage of Appreciation, which is from Abraham.
This is where Abraham turned up.
Abraham Hicks.
This is
right.
where This is where I tuned in. I already knew about Abraham a lot, but this is where I really explored those teachings. Because I had no distractions. So can I actually, because I forgot to mention that, I started doing these. Oh, well, I guess I haven't told you this, because one application I went through in between all of this stuff was I actually would put myself through personal retreats where I would do things to see what would happen if I fucked with my senses, basically. And that was in between the alchemy course and Ramtha in that time period.
So I did it. So what would happen if you blocked your senses? Like what was like a dark retreat?
No. So for example, I blindfolded myself for 3 weeks. Like I literally put a blindfold on, didn't take it off for 3 weeks. I wanted to see how dominant, because I had started to read David Icke at that point.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see how the brain actually perceives reality. And his talks a lot about how much goes through our eyes, and then our belief structure. So I thought, cut the eyes out. I'd like to see what happens then.
And what year was this around about? What year?
I reckon that was about 2006, something like this.
Okay, cool.
So and then I did a brainwashing retreat where I actually went to a studio in Melbourne and I cut my perfect set of sentences or statements down, and then I went into a studio and put it to music and then made this CD, and I basically listened to it 24/7 for 4 weeks to see what would happen if my internal chatter got replaced with these sentiments. It's basically which is basically what Abraham would say to do. Okay,
so positive things.
Well, not just positive. I was doing shit I can talk to animals, whatever I wanted.
Wow.
Anything. And actually, JC, I've got that CD. We can make that available under this podcast as a free download.
So what's the intention? What's the intention? Like you're putting different programming in? Is that like your brain?
Yeah, basically I didn't really know about programming at this point to the extent we are here today, but I understood that if our thoughts create reality, then I should be thinking my perfect set of thoughts, and thus I could actually
was there
clear out my brain.
I can fly in that?
Yeah. Was there? There would have been something. There definitely would have been something in the realms of that. And actually, when you listen to it, you'll find some of the sentences funny. But actually, a lot of them I really have embodied. As far as 20 years on from that, but. So I did a lot of personal applications and testing and trialings of all the different containers that I'd been in.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to the farm, it was a natural extension of me to see this landscape and go, okay, here I am. I'm going to apply myself to this essentially a giant, long, personal, private, no one else is here retreat forever. And that's when I started to really play with Abraham's work. Really powerfully, because I love Abraham's work, man. I fucking love rampaging with you. I love it. It brings me up.
So we have to show people what rampaging, a rampage of appreciation. All right, rampage of appreciation. Now Kelly reminded me of this rampage of appreciation. If you just look up Abraham on YouTube, and I don't care if she liked the jab or she talked about taking a jab, just let's not worry about that. Let's just talk about the teachings of these very powerful teachings.
Yep.
which you can
Yep.
discard at any point in your life. But this is actually really, really powerful. And I remember I was feeling really shit about something, and then you gifted me in a voice message this 15-minute rampage of appreciation for JCK, and you're like, right, let's do this. And then you just start. So what it is, and I think Tony Robbins does something like this as well, where you're kind of building on the gratitude that you have. You start small and you just start building this thing. I am so grateful. I am so grateful for this day. I love the fact that I can speak eloquently into this microphone and affect thousands of people right now. I am so grateful for the roof over my head. And I love the fact that I can afford to pay this rent for this beautiful house and look after my daughter. And I'm so grateful for the fact that I have friends like Kelly Jones. She's amazing. What an incredible, inspiring human being that I have the access to. And this technology is amazing. The fact that I can have this technology to speak to you and to connect with you on the other side of this state, and you have this ability to come through and I could feel your energy. That is such an amazing, powerful thing for me. And I truly appreciate that. And I love this day. I love the fact that it's raining right now. I love the fact that as I look out of the back window here of my apartment, I can see Brenda, this incredible tree, this tree that has affected hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. And I can feel her energy, and I can feel her even here in this apartment. This is how we start this rampage of appreciation. And we just keep going, and we build it and build it and build it. And pretty soon you're feeling so pumped up. And we kept saying we wanted to do this, and then life got in the way, and we kept going, we got to do this. We got to do this on camera. And
because I think we can actually, we will do it, and we'll just see, the game will be to see how long we can go for without stopping. Like just bouncing back between, it's like how long we can take it. Like maybe we can really do a whole 2 hour without saying anything but being in a rampage. I love that. And I think, well, I mean, like, I love that, like, stepping into gratitude, and like, because I always know that when I am down or in my grief, or I tend to go into self-criticism and self-worth issues. I can just be like, I just know that I can turn around anywhere in my environment and go, you know what? I fucking love flowers. Like, I love flowers. I love that they exist. I love that I can see them. I love that they smell beautiful. I love the way that nature interacts with my life. I love being in nature. I love the land. I love trees. I love seeing them blossom. I love breathing in there. So it's really easy now, because I did it for 2 years solid without ever stopping, for me to move into that flow of appreciation.
And it brings you into
it's much more difficult,
right?
Yes, it's just much more difficult for me to remember to do that. But it is, I have trained a part of my brain. So if I really, like, the other day when I was driving home, I was just telling you, like, yesterday, when I put the phone down from you, I was like, right, Jonesy, come on, like, here we are, like, come on, tell me 10 things that you're loving about this very moment. And I wasn't feeling great, and I wasn't feeling loved, and I was feeling like actually traumatized. And I just was so easy. It was so easy just to be like, I love seeing that cow over there. I love these big empty roads. I love driving and listening to music. So I really recommend that anyone out there, like, gets their head around. That's why I think we should do it, just to introduce it, remind people how amazing it is. Brings your frequency up.
Yeah, it brings your frequency right up, and it brings you to a state of appreciation. But what happens?
And thus, Abraham introduced me to frequency.
Frequency, okay. But I want to ask you, is we can have those, we can talk ourselves into, like with Louise Hay. I mean, that was my first introduction into affirmations from, I think it was 1993 or 94 when I first got introduced to Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And as a kid, I'm sitting there like in I think it was my first year of university, and I'm trying to just say these affirmations over and over again. Every opportunity is a golden opportunity. Every opportunity is a golden opportunity. I am grateful. I am truly loved, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it's up here and it's not embodied, and underneath it can still be the sadness or the melancholy or the pain or the trauma. And
definitely,
and that's where, so it has its place, but I want to sort of give everyone this caveat that it also can mask what is going on deep down
Mm.
and getting into the root of it. And that's where I feel like speaking your truth and being brutally honest with yourself is the thing that's going to awaken and break through that kind of bottled up emotion or that trapped energy that's in you. So instead
Yeah.
of talking about that and instead of talking about stuff, I'm going to ask you to do something. So I'm going to facilitate this. All right.
Mm.
So I want you to sort of close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, Kelly Jones,
Mm.
and just, we can cut this out. So I want you to, if you don't like this, we can cut it out and it's all good.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
And we just kind of breathe into the belly. You can breathe in through your nose, a really deep breath. Keep your mouth closed. And out through the nose. Breathe in right at the top of your lungs. Hold the breath at the top for a couple of seconds and then breathe out. I want you to start to breathe rhythmically and deeply. Breathe out and let it go. And as you start to breathe, I want you to bring your awareness into your body and start to scan your body. And as you place your focus over your body from your toes, up your legs, up into your hips, your stomach, your solar plexus, the tips of your fingers, up your arms, into your chest, into your neck, and awareness of your back of your body. Where does your focus go to when I say to you the word trauma? What part of your body does your
My
consciousness throat?
well, right now, throat. Yeah, because I'm trying not to cough.
Trauma.
Throat.
And if you had a color for that area where you're feeling the word trauma.
Brown.
Right. Okay. And if there were words that could be expressed around that area where it feels like this color brown, or if there were a consciousness attached to that feeling of trauma, what would that consciousness say in that space of your body? What are the first words?
Your shit.
Right. Why do you think that this one is shit? That is not true.
Mm.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Too loud.
Yes. Is there anything else you wish to say about this one?
Lies.
Who is lying? If this expression or this consciousness had a form, what would it look like?
It feels like a giant angry man,
Mm-hmm.
big. It feels very angry.
Yes. And if this consciousness were around you, where would it be? Where is your awareness taking?
It just
Mind?
feels like the tyrant in me that's
Yes.
speaking to the victim in me. Like I can feel my being cowering to this gigantic pointed finger of this energy. Very loud, very angry,
Mm-hmm.
big shoulders, almost like kind of like an orange version of the Hulk.
Mm-hmm. And I want to address this one, this being that has these thoughts or puts these thoughts around your throat. If I could speak to this one, this being, what would it say to me?
It feels like it would shrug you off. Like its whole energy is just focused. Like it's not even, it's dismissive of everything. It's like got a job, one focus.
Yes.
It would
What is its
it would be
focus?
disrespectful. It would be disrespectful and um disinterested.
Yes. So what is its focus? What's its job?
It feels like strangulation,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
like so angry at this smaller, more delicate, like this other being feels like a broken butterfly fairy kind of being, like kind of
Uh,
cowering
are there
on the
two
floor.
beings? There are two
There's two
beings?
beings. Yeah,
Yes.
I feel that's what I mean. Like I feel like the tyrant and the victim in me. It feels very me.
Right. And if we were to address this large one, if I was to bring in some assistance here to help with this situation, and I call in and ask for, through our pure divine source creator, I call in Archangel Michael to come through with his net of white light and his angelic team. Come in and please place your net of white light around this one, this being that is connected to Kelly's throat, the energy. They now have this being in this net of white light. And we need to now make this being aware that it does not have any right to strangle you in any way or make you think these thoughts of negativity. So I want to address this being, and I'm going to ask this being a question. Why is it that you are calling this one shit and stopping her from speaking, stopping her from knowing her full self? What is your job here?
To keep it down. To keep it down.
You have no right to keep this one small or keep her down. She has free will and she has a voice that is very powerful. And we live in a free will universe. So you do not have the right to hold on to this one and suppress her. What made you come now to suppress this one? What made you keep her down? Who told you to do this?
She makes me so angry.
Who sent you?
Her sound hurts, pierces the ears. It's irritating. The sound is irritating. Who sent me? Who sent me?
How did you find this divine being of light? And who told you to suppress her and keep her down?
It's my job. This is what I do.
Yes. But do you have a master?
Very old master. I've never seen.
And how do you know this one?
Color. Very bright. Very clear, very obvious.
Yes. So you are drawn to this one's light that she
Light.
exudes.
It's irritating.
Do you know that you have your own light within you? If I told you that you do not need to be attached to this one and be connected to her light, and if I told you that you had your own light within you that you could focus on and detach from this one, what would you say?
My light, my light. I've never
Yes.
said that.
We have a group of angels now around you to show you your light, and they're full of light. So I'm going to get Archangel Michael and his team of angels to surround you now and show you a different light, and that is the light of source that you are a part of. So you can let go of this one and not interfere with her light. How does that sound?
I am of the earth, the rock.
You are very ancient.
Very ancient.
So you, being so ancient, you are divine and you are part of source. You don't do not need to attach yourself to this one. You are part of the all. Do not concern yourself with her.
My light feels taken.
Yes. Did this one disturb your light or disturb your peace in any way?
I'm here. I am here. Have been here. My purpose is to find this light and contain it.
I see. So
I don't remember how I am here.
yes. You are part of this earth, it seems, and you are very ancient. And so this team of angels around you is now going to surround you with light and show you how to find your own, so that you do not need to concern yourself with this one. So Archangel Michael, I ask for you to get your sword, your blue sword of truth and light, and I ask you to sever the ties between this one and this being. And they are now surrounding this being with their light and highlighting the light within this being, disconnecting you from this one, so that she may be free and that you too may be free. Can you see this light now?
I accept this. It feels time.
Yes.
I do not feel rage. It's not irritating me.
Good. So now embrace this light within you. And now, Archangel Michael, angels, I ask for you to send this being to the light of source. Show this being where it needs to belong and to detach from this one. So on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to, Archangel Michael, pull this one away from Kelly. 1, up and out. 2, fully out now. 3, out and into the light of source, fully out now, fully out, and detached from this one. So you are free now. Is there anything you wish to say to this one here before you leave?
I feel grief. I was jealous. And
You were jealous. Yes.
The light.
Yes.
But I have it.
You do. You are all light. And you are part of that light. And you are free now.
Long time.
Yes.
Long time. I don't remember. It's been so long. Where I came from, fallen, where from, I don't know.
Yes.
Why I'm here, I cannot remember.
The angels
My
will
anger.
remind you. Yes. Yes.
I don't even know. Fire, like the earth erupting.
And is there anything you wish to say to this being before it leaves into the light of source?
I want to say I love you. It feels so integrated. I feel sad.
Yes. So this being served its purpose, and now we say goodbye to it. And if you were to feel a color now that is around your throat, what color would it be as we send it off into the light? What would heal this
Orange.
area? Orange.
Mm.
Wonderful. And so now I see this radiating orange light now clearing the throat chakra, clearing this area of all attachments, allowing this one to express her creativity freely without hindrance, to release the grief that was pent up there, and now full of light, full of orange light. And now see it surrounding this one and clearing her of any negativity that is attached to the throat. Fully aware now. I see this light swirling around her and healing her in completion. How do you feel now as we bring this?
Emotional. Mm.
Yeah. And so I want you now, Kelly, to sort of bring your awareness up. This was a very brief clearing that we did on your throat. And I want you to breathe deeply. Bring up any thoughts or emotions that you may be feeling now. And just as you're breathing freely now and feeling this energy detach from you and no longer part of you, what are the thoughts that you're or emotions that you're feeling as we bring some new light into your vessel?
I feel I am on the verge of releasing tears.
Yes.
My first visual was a waterfall flowing up
Wow.
from my chest up.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
that whole vision was, it was like both his feet were just like rocks in the ground, as were mine.
Yes.
Um, when you released, there was a really strong pain that went up my neck, from my shoulders up my neck, like I'd suddenly strained myself. It was very strong.
Yeah. Shoulders.
And
Shoulders are
then
clear. Yeah.
shoulders and neck went through, and then emotion.
I just wish to ask the holy and mercenaries, the angels, to come in now and surround Kelly with gold healing light around her shoulders, around her neck. Call you in through the light of source to please come and bring balance and healing to Kelly, so that she may integrate this new energy that is now in this space of her throat and neck and shoulders and heart energy. I see them surrounding you
I
now, and
always
yeah, full of gold light and healing. They're alleviating any pain, extracting it all.
I've always sort of seen my body like a rock.
Amazing.
It's interesting. And my feet also, they've been sore. So this rock, this hard, stiff, strong, but difficult. Mm.
And kept you.
Not flowing,
Yes. Yes.
pounding, strength, pushing, not the air, not the water.
Very, very stagnant and hard and part of the earth, but ancient, but blocking.
Ancient.
Yeah.
That was also ancient. That was also, older than we'd even know, older than our memories would even hold it. Like, that was the biggest impression I got. Just this, like, so old.
Yeah.
That it was just integrated with no thought, it almost like a tree, something like a mountain or something.
Yeah.
It was not in conflict with itself because there was no thoughts.
Yeah.
There was just this
ancient consciousness part of the realm. Yeah. So it's gone now. It's not part of you now. Yeah.
It didn't feel demonic.
No. It felt like a nature spirit or a very ancient.
But it was angry.
Being. Yeah.
Like a volcano.
Amazing.
Its only thought was like me and my stopping, containing. That was it. There was no.
Yes.
When you brought in the net, it just stood there looking like at it.
Yes.
Like so surprised something was happening around it. Like
something different.
I just saw it looking at the angels and this net, and it was like,
yeah, these beings forget who they are and they forget their light. And they attach to us in whether through anger or through attempting to take our light or silence it. And they often don't know why, because they've forgotten, they've come into this realm through, since the beginning of time, and they've forgotten who they are. They've forgotten their connection to source. And so when we remind them, they very readily accept the light. They really do. And so now that was just a very, very small portion of entity release. I probably did it in a very clunky way, but take as long as you want.
I went there. Don't worry.
And just drink some water. So
that was
yeah, go. You weren't fully in hypnosis, but you were in a suggestive state. So if you notice that, that even just a very quick meditation can get you in that state. Okay. So what you guys just saw there, I mean, that was very impromptu, and I'm not, I can't fully remember the sort of script or the process, but having had some soul center healing hypnosis techniques, that was kind of my own sort of version of in a meditative or a calm state, being able to help Kelly tap into her higher self and her body awareness and recognize where there is something around her. And the minute I said trauma, you went to that space. Now, usually with entity release, we would go through every single chakra, or you would scan your body, and wherever you feel something different, you would bring your awareness to that thing. And there would be a process of this, of removing. And I did see something else there, and I got that removed as well. But that was, you said that you felt a waterfall coming up. So you may get some phlegm coming up. You may get some fluid coming out. And we'll
I moved. That was moving. I wasn't expecting that. That wasn't planned. So I wasn't, I couldn't see you. Like my screen, there was no visual in front of me for the last probably half an hour. I lost the screen. So I was just staring at my desktop, couldn't see me or you. And um, yeah, like honestly, my being just went straight to that scene. Like it wasn't difficult. It just came straight to my mind. Um, and upon I mean, there was so much anger, like just strangling this and just like wanting, it really felt like, I had convinced myself that what I have to say is not worth it, not that my.
And can you see how some of these things, what they do is they play on the weaknesses or the thoughts you might have, and you start to believe that they're your own thoughts, but they're actually not your thoughts. They're
Like,
from this
yeah.
other separate consciousness that's in our energetic field. So where you picked that up from, I don't know. I mean, you may have been somewhere out doing a party thing in the land and this thing attached to you. Maybe you were having a little, wacky tobacco one day and there was a bit of a break in your auric field and this energy of this thing who was very angry at you partying or whatever had come in. So this is what happens,
Angry
you
at me
see.
speaking.
Angry at you
Yeah, it was
speaking.
all around me speaking.
Yeah.
And basically, like it's so interesting. I could see how that sort of focus on that topic for me would be like really fuck with me, like someone who like loves speaking and communicating um and then to suddenly be capable of actually thinking everything I have to say is shit and no one needs to hear any of this and don't say anything at all, and like if ever I do say anything it always ends up in disaster, so like just like you don't even have any original things to say, like I can see the chatter associated with this part of my being. And um when but like at the same time as that came up, I can feel that entity wasn't personal. It wasn't
No.
like, it was like literally getting rendezvousing with a mountain,
Yeah.
like it,
And it wasn't
it's not,
it wasn't evil. It
no, it
wasn't
didn't
evil.
feel,
No, it didn't have an evil
it just
feeling.
felt completely lost and forgotten. But the tone, the frequency of my speaking voice, the words I would choose to utilize,
Yeah.
and the vibration that it
Mm-hmm.
would bring about, plus the light, the light, that it was highly irritating to this being. Like it just wanted it
So
gone. Like
your
shut
light
it,
was, yeah,
shut it.
your light was disturbing it. Your light was disturbing it. That's why I had to draw its focus back to itself and the light of itself, so that it could draw itself away and stop suppressing your light and feel disconnected from you. Because this is a free will universe. So when they come and disturb you or suppress you, that's not, it's against your will, right? So that's why there's
Mm,
that. So this is a process that people can work with, and it doesn't have to be really freaky and scary. It's actually very intriguing and interesting as it's happening.
yeah.
And
Mm,
there's always, I mean, the person who's facilitating is always in charge and in control of removing this thing from you. And even if you got interrupted in the middle of that, nothing dangerous is going to happen because that thing was already there with you. So it's like, it's not going to be
God.
dangerous to you. So it's hard to explain now. I hope if you are a soul center healing hypnosis practitioner out there, don't shit on my technique there, because I've never done it. I've never practiced it. So I did study the
No,
course, but I
perfect
didn't
for
actually.
me.
Yeah, but I just sort
Mm,
of ad-libbed that bit to sort of see what we could see around you, and this, you could do something similar to this for yourself, and sort of bring some light, sort of scan your body as though you're scanning yourself with some
mm,
white light, white gold light, and
mm,
you'll feel, your body will know, this body awareness, this body wisdom will know, oh yeah, I could feel these little gremlin things near my ear, or and can feel something trying to choke my
mm,
throat. And I saw this brown kind of, and it was funny when you said brown, because I was like, yeah, that's the color I saw. I felt this brown thing kind of going like that to you, you know, and it was
like the
like a blob.
earth, like,
Yeah, it was like a blob of mud,
yeah,
like a blob of
yep.
hardened earth. Kind of like that. What was it? The Thing? Do you remember The Thing? And he was like this big rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big orange rock
I mean,
man.
it's interesting to, like, it literally was a big orange rock man.
Yeah.
It's interesting to use words like that, like hardened and hard, you know, because like if I was to like look, if I was to self-analyze my connection to my heart through all of these, you know, decades, I mean, and you've all heard this, like my journeys, and you would think that I would be the most connected to my heart of anyone ever, like completely done all, but no, like there has felt like a hardening. So, and I could bring myself to this present day and where I've been in the last couple of weeks, and it feels hardened to faith and hardened towards source and God and hardened towards healing the world, you know, the softer things, like
I'm
wanting
getting
to
the
make it a better.
cynicism. The cynicism is part of the hardness, and also the disappointment and being let down is what I'm getting from you. There's a big letdowns that there's been a lot of people who've disappointed you on a massive scale. You know, parent sort of stuff going on. And,
very close people, very close people. Yeah, very consistently in really crazy, crazy ways. But yes, that's been a theme, most definitely.
And so what happens when we have these feelings and these energies attached to us is we make ourselves small, right? We make ourselves small, and we're not fully embracing who we are and how and our divine being. So when someone like me comes along and goes and who's integrated all of this stuff, and I go, you know, you just got to go within, and that there's people with blockages, they can't go within. They don't know how to go within. They don't know how to go in. That's why it's always external. And this is you know, you see how it was very easy for you to tell you your story because it's a story and it's external to you. And I didn't want you to just start telling a private story immediately because I could feel straight away there's something up here in this part stopping you from expressing yourself. And that's why I wanted you to scan your body. And I was not surprised, not one bit, when you said throat, because I could feel that there was something just blocking it down, right? And it was kind of it was blocking this. So don't be afraid that, you know, in the coming hours and days and whatever, that stuff's going to come up. Emotions may come up. You may cook up some stuff. Drink some AUSSIE if you've got some AUSSIE. Drink your AUSSIE. And drink your AUSSIE and drink lots of water. And, you know, if you feel you do need to go quiet or you do need to go have a cry, then do that. But I also felt that there's a lot of grief and tears being suppressed, like it's not safe to cry right now. And so what ends up happening with people who feel it's not safe to cry is they get sick a lot, okay, to release the tears, the internal tears. Louise Hay said that colds and flus are actually internal tears. It's your permission to cry. It's crying from the inside, right? And grief is held in the lungs. So this area, this throat lung area, you're going to, you know, purging the grief is part of that. A lot of people who had the C word, you know, who claim they had the virus, they literally were just going through massive purges of trapped emotion, trapped feelings, and embrace that. Embrace when you do get unwell or in disease, or, you know, embrace that because it's your chance to purge these things. It will come out of you one way or another.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I haven't classically struggled with any illness or anything this lifetime, but in 2016 I did get Ross River fever, and that was big. And then a year after I did get what I believe was the prequel to COVID, and
there's this whole story around that. But we've been going for 2 hours, so we're gonna have to leave that to part 2. There's a massive story around that. So Kelly,
we could keep chipping away.
Kelly had the first case of the COVID.
I believe I did, and it was handed to me by white, grey looking entities, and a super soldier. So that's like a whole other story. And look, I mean, you know, maybe we should just keep chipping away at this dialogue and just like keep going. I mean, over the weeks and the months, and I'm happy to just keep going into it further and further. But as far as today, like that was a tangible pain that came up.
I could see
very, very tangible. I glimpsed, like it was tangible.
Yeah.
That experience that I just had, honestly, it felt like we were both, I was also that being. Like it didn't feel,
that's what
I felt like I was in that timeline. And I was
because what you're doing is you're tapping into the consciousness, and you are part of the all. And so what you're hearing is its consciousness. And that's also an indication that all is one, right? So even though we're separated into separate consciousnesses, we can tap into the consciousness of everything. So if an entity like a demon comes through, it doesn't mean you are evil and possessed. It just means that you can tap into the consciousness of this other being that has invaded your energetic field, right? So that's what this is. That's what this all is one sort of accumulates to. So we can wrap it up here and then do a part 2 and go into, and I could hear when I started to clear it, I heard the cough. You remember? So we can go into a part 2 for Kelly, and she can talk about this incredible story around this next part of her life where she then meets a super soldier.
I mean, it just goes on to everything you guys have ever read in the disclosure realms, like all those stories before the whole COVID thing broke, all the ones you read before the COVID thing broke. Like, yes, that all suddenly came to life in my reality in a very fucking mad and crazy, and like, honestly, it like split my mind into JC, because like it was very hard to distinguish between what was actually being presented to me in physical evidence and physical reality, and what was being presented to me in the highest version of highest realms. I mean, it was like holding the most extreme version of everything in this human mind of mine, and it pushed me to my absolute limits. And I have not got over that yet. So to talk to that story and share it with you, what comes out of that.
And you and I have very similar stories in that.
Absolutely.
Parallel stories
so
that we
similar.
both experienced. So this is going to be interesting. So that can be our part 2 of 2 Aussie birds talking. So I think this is cool. This is awesome.
This is fun. This is fun. Right? Amazing. Like, I mean, that whole experience just then, like, I mean, it felt so old and ancient, and I felt old and ancient, and I felt still. And I also, and interestingly, I got a really strong sense that this entity had no memory of who it was or where it came from. And I thought, gosh, has that been a consciousness that's infiltrated into my concept of not knowing who I am and where I've come from? That lifetime happen. Pursuit of that trying to find that answer.
That can happen, and that can happen. That could be even attached to you from previous incarnations.
Oh, it definitely felt previous. It did not feel of this lifetime.
Right. So it didn't originate. It didn't attach to it. Yeah, that's crazy. So guys, I mean, this is just a little snippet of us exploring and just having a yarn and chatting away. And Kelly was so nervous about this, and she's never nervous about talking, but this is fantastic. I love this. We will probably end it here. I mean, we've been talking for 2 hours, and I also have to get dinner and stuff like that ready, but I think let's do this again soon. And this is amazing. Fantastic.
Because to be fair, we haven't got to the part of my experience that has made me nervous to share it yet. Like that's part 2, where I'll be like, am I ready to do this? Am I ready to say this out loud?
Listen, we better do a part 2. We better do a part 2, because if we don't do a part 2, I'm going to be hassled by the audience. So, right. This is awesome. So you're going to have a drink of AUSSIE, lots of AUSSIE, clear that out, lots of water, clear that out. and really just sit now. If you're alone for now, go out in and sit on your farm and just ground yourself and just clear that and do some more. I'll send you a little visualization that you can do to just do some more clearing to help integrate that. Okay. And yeah, this was amazing. I mean, we just started talking and we just wanted to see where it went. And I love you so much.
I love you too, baby. I love you so much. Yeah.
The most incredible person I've ever met. And
Same.
I'm so proud of you and so grateful that you are my friend.
In my honors, the honor's mine. Definitely. Absolutely.
All right.
Totally
See you
share
later,
that
everyone.
Yeah.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.